Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. Today we are playing some Red-Black Scam. Yes, that's right, in Legacy. So I've played something similar to this, but it was kind of a bit bigger on the curve. Now we're playing the low to the ground version, so let's get into it. So this deck kind of exists because Stalactite Stalker exists. So this allows us to have 8 1-drops that are pretty high impact. So Dragon's Rage Channeler is going to be doing a lot of work for us here. It's evasive when it's attacking usually. And Stalactite Stalker is evasive, it grows. In a pinch, it can be removal. So these are our sort of threats to start the game with. But we also have the Grief, like classic Scam package, so we can pitch a Grief early and then reanimate it. So that can be a pretty potent turn 1 play to take 2 cards out of our opponent's hand. Other threats include 4 Dauthi Voidwalker. Guess what? It's got evasion. You can see a theme here. Then we've got a couple of Bowmasters as well. Just a great card that doesn't really need much explanation. And then we've got a whole selection of interaction here. So we've got a couple of Thoughtseizes to go with our Griefs to make sure that we've got lots of hand disruption. And then we've got this big selection of things to remove stuff in play. So we've got Lightning Bolts, obviously a classic and a very good card. A Snuff Out, so this is a free piece of interaction that we can have. And free interaction is pretty important in Legacy these days. We've got a couple of Seal of Fires. So this is an enchantment, which will give us one of our types for Delirium. It's also a thing that goes into the graveyard for the purpose of Stalactite Stalker, so it kind of does double duty with both of these threats. And the good thing about Seal of Fire is if you've got a Dragon's Rage Channeler, you can play it out proactively to get your Surveil, and then it's just in play waiting to use its ability on something. So that's quite nice. We've got a couple of, so we've got 3 Molten Collapses even, because we're going to be putting stuff into our graveyard a fair bit and turning this on, so this is just a really good removal spell that can sometimes be a 2-for-1. To also facilitate our Dragon's Rage Channel plan, we've got 4 Lotus Petals, so we can kind of ramp out, make our turn 1 Dauthi Voidwalkers, or turn 1 Grief, Animate Dead Grief is another option we have. So this gives us some decent options, but also it goes into the graveyard for Stalactite Stalker. It triggers Dragon's Rage Channeler with the Surveil. It just does quite a lot. And we have 4 Troll of Khazad-dum, so we can use this to go and find lands that we need. We do have 2 mountains, but we have no... Sorry, 2 swamps, but no mountains. So we can use Troll of Khazad-dum as well, so we could do this turn 1 to cycle and then reanimate it if we've got Lotus Petal. So we're kind of really low to the ground, aggressive, with enough disruption to get us over the edge. We also have 4 Wastelands to keep our opponent off kilter. This also pretty good with Stalactite Stalker. So yeah, this deck list looks pretty clean. There's been a few 5-0s doing very similar things. Sideboard-wise, we've got 3 Null Rods because, you know, there's some pretty scary artifact decks out there these days, and we're not playing counter spells or anything, so we need some protection for stuff like that. Another Snuff Out. When it's good, we're going to want more of these. Some Graveyard Hate in the form of Faerie Macabre as a 4-of, which is pretty interesting. We've got Red Blast and Pyroblast, so we've got some game against the blue decks. We can actually kill Murktide Regent without needing our Molten Collapse, but we do actually have the Molten Collapse main deck, so we're not completely cold to it. A little bit more hand disruption when we need that. And this is an interesting one. This is a card that I've been talking about a little bit. Force of Despair. So this is pretty much for the Goblins matchup. So your opponent makes a load of Goblins. They go to attack you with the Goblins, and you say, hold on a second, I'm just going to pitch 2 cards and destroy your entire board. So it's just a really good way of saying no to the big scary Goblin wombo combo turns. So this is quite a nice one. I'm a big fan of this card actually, and I think more people should be playing it. So now we get to showcase that today, hopefully. But we might not play against Goblins, but that's what it's there for. And the deck's very popular, and it's very strong, so it makes sense to be packing it. And yeah, that's the deck. I'm quite excited to try this one. I like sort of low to the ground, tempo-y style decks quite a bit, so we should have a good time. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And let's jam some Red-Black Scam. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, this is our opening hand for the first game. We can put a Grief or Troll of Khazad-dum into play turn 1. Actually, no, we can't do the Troll. We can do the Grief, though. That seems good. We can Grief and then reanimate Grief. That sounds good enough to me. Let's see what our opponent's up to, though. A basic forest, you say? Alright. I'm going to approach things slightly differently here. We don't have a mountain here, so we're just getting a Badlands. We're going to play the Dragon's Rage Channeler here. We'll play this, get a Surveil off. No, we don't need a land now. Let's get this Seal of Fire in. Molten Collapse is a sorcery. That will give us Delirium, But we have to lure him next turn anyway. It's a case of, do we want this Molten Collapse or not? I think we do want the Molten Collapse. Now, there is a punish for this. If our opponent goes Swamp Orcish Bowmasters, that is annoying. Maybe we could have kept that Badlands on top, though. Right. No Wasteland, no Swamp. Very happy with how that's turned out for us. Alright, our opponent's going to put a couple of mana dorks into play. We're going to disrupt our opponent's hand, and hopefully that'll be good. So we knew we were drawing this Molten Collapse. So if we cycle this Troll, get another Badlands, I think we have to grief here, and I believe it's the Molten Collapse that goes. We just don't want to get hit by natural order here. Endurance and Fiend Artisan. We take the Endurance. Our Lightning Bolt can clean up the Fiend Artisan because it'll only be a 3/3. And we can start swinging. Alright, things going pretty well. Let's see what our opponent is going to respond with here. Verdant Catacombs. Yep, we knew they had that already. They just draw a natural order off the top. That's a little bit rude. But it is what it is. There's a Bayou. Right, there is a Fiend Artisan. Sure. An Elvish Reclaimer. Let's just kill their Fiend Artisan. I would like to keep this on top of our library, please. So they can peck at us for 2 here. That's not really a big deal. And we can just untap and continue beating for 3 whilst killing their creatures. I'm going to take out this Reclaimer. What are we drawing next turn? A Stalactite Stalker. Honestly, I'm not sure if we want this. I think the time for this is gone. We'll put this into our graveyard. We'll probably just bring the Troll back next turn. Maybe I've taken 2 defensive line by bolting straight away, but we don't want them to have access to whatever spooky lands, like a Guy's Cradle means that this Allosaurus Shepherd might soon be able to attack for 5 instead of 2, and that's a very different set of calculations we'd have to make then. Alright, go to attacks. So the question here is, do we want Grief to take that 1 card out of hand? Alright. That's not amazing for us. In fact, it's incredibly bad. Yeah, that's gone awful for us right there. Okay. So if we Animate Dead first, then they get us with Endurance. And this way we didn't lose our Animate Dead. We're not going to Animate Dead a Dragon's Rage Channeler. If we find a black card, we can do some work. We find a Troll, we can cycle it and immediately Animate Dead. So we've got some options. But they're largely down to what's on top of our deck. We can also just steal their Endurance, but our Endurance will be smaller than theirs because of how Animate Dead works. I don't think we're looking for a Fiend Artisan. Can we take 5 again and see what the next turn holds? I don't really want to make a 1/2 Fiend Artisan or a 2/4. A 2/4 Endurance kind of holds them back a little bit, but I think we could just do better than that. I'm going to give it another turn, see if we can find a Troll or something like that. Troll would be the ideal, I think. They got another Dryad Arbor here? Yes, they have. So this is going to be 6 damage now. So if they have another creature here, what is this getting them? Okay, so they're going to attack us for 8 here instead. They're going to activate their Allosaurus Shepherd rather than attack with their Dryad Arbors. That's pretty annoying. Here is a reasonably good example of why counter spells are better than discard spells a lot of the time. Obviously, Allosaurus Shepherd does change that calculation. So, if we block this, we take 4. No, we take 3, sorry. So if we crack our fetch land, we will die. Which isn't quite how I would like to. So, we can put this Grief into play as a 2/2. So we chump blocking for a turn. And then what? I don't think we have any good ways out of this game. I'm just going to go to game 2 here. I was not the one, unfortunately. I thought we had that game. It was just that Endurance was like the one thing we didn't really want to see. Right, I would like a Snuff Out. Force of Despair is interesting. Like, just having loads of removal feels like a pretty good way of winning this matchup. And I think the removal is better than the Hand Disruption. So I don't think we want these Thoughtseizes. Like, Natural Order is definitely a pain, but the Grease can try and pick that up. Orcish Bowmasters can kill some of their guys. That seems fine. Removal, removal, removal. Like, our deck is just removal town, isn't it? And that's probably a pretty good way of approaching this. Do we want to trim a couple of Animate Deads in case our opponent is doing something to our graveyard, making these less viable? I think that's probably a good idea. And we'll just ball in like this. Like, just casting a Force of Despair can be fine, but it does, like, kill the Crater Hoof and stuff. It seems fine. What does this do? We have some removal spells. We have Troll. It seems acceptable to me. So we could do Grief, Reanimate Grief right now, or we could just get Troll in and start balling. I think because of the removal we have, I'm just going to start balling with the Troll next turn. So we're going to go get Badlands. We're going to reanimate this Troll, and then we're going to kill whatever they play on turn 1. There is a delicious thing for me to kill away. So let's do some Swamp Cyclone. Let's get Badlands. If they have an Endurance here, they're going to have to pitch a reasonable amount of cards. We can just pitch and Grief right now, though. That's pretty solid. So what are you working with, opponent? Endurance and a Natural Order. Like, Natural Order is the scarier of these things, so we'll just take that. So now they can't do anything about our Troll. Like, we could just get the Grief and take out their Endurance. But we're going to keep them off of Endurance for a few turns anyway, so I think we just get the Troll in. And let's play out this Seal of Fire. Kill their Hierarch. So they can't get the Endurance into play this turn. And then we Wasteland them off of one of their lands, and they can't get into play next turn either. So they have to draw a Dork, but we can kill a Dork. So yeah, that's fine. But in Catacombs. Alright. Oh wow, even better. Let's kill their Dork this way. Just get rid of their Lair of the Hydra. We are absolutely cruising now. We've still got another removal spell. We've got full information on our opponent's hand. Like, the best thing they could draw here is a Fiend Artisan, which will be killable by Lightning Bolt anyway. I'll buy you another Mana Dork. Sure. Force of Despair. Alright, we'll attack with everything. We're just going to hit this because that stops them from natural ordering for something like an Atraxa next turn. Just keep them coming. What are you going to play that's going to do anything here? Nothing. Excellent. So, yep. Play some guys, kill every creature they play. That feels like a recipe for success. Let's just do that. This is definitely not the matchup for Force of Despair, but it is reasonable here. So we don't really have access to a second mana. I don't think we can keep this one. This has only mana, so let's get rid of that one. Alright, this is the best one so far. What do we... Okay, we'll get rid of this Force of Despair. We'll get rid of a redundant Reanimate, I think. Okay, so we kind of have a similar thing, but with less removal. Like, we can still make the Troll on turn 2, if that's where we need to be. An Ignoble Hierarch. Sure. So Wasteland's not going to cut it here. That's fine. I will cycle this now in case they have Opposition Agent. We don't want that to be a thing that they just randomly get us with. We can Force of Despair if we need to. A Noble Hierarch. They're going to attack us for 2. No. Okay. So what are they holding up here? Orcish Bowmasters or something? So are we getting just a Dauthi Voidwalker in to start chipping away? Is that actually the play here rather than... I think it might be. Rather than the Troll. It feels like they have an Endurance. And this way just plays around that quite nicely. What are they going to fetch here? I'll buy you. Yep, the Orcish Bowmasters that we expected to see. Our creature can't block, which is important to note. And they do get 2 Exalted triggers when they attack. Force of Vigor we can only pitch on our turn. Oh, sorry, on our opponent's turn, not on our turn. Alright, Cradle. So this is probably Natural Order for smashing our face in for a bunch. It's just Hardcast Hoof. Off of the 2 Dorks. This feels like Green Sun Zenith, the way that they're paying for the mana on it. Green Sun Zenith, X equals 3. What is an X equals 3 looking like? A Grist. That's pretty annoying. And a Fiend Artisan. I don't think we trade 2 cards to kill that Fiend Artisan. Alright, our opponent is certainly doing alright over there. But we can Wasteland their Cradle to make things a little bit easier on ourselves. Grief, is that where we want to be here? Let's get rid of the Cradle. That's the easy part. Now, if we Grief, We're probably pitching the Dauthi Voidwalker to do it. But then we don't have a card to pitch for our Force of Despair if we need that. So we probably can't do that. So we could just take a massive hit. If we go and get... So we can either play this Dauthi Voidwalker, or we can just get the biggest game in town. I think we'll just get the big troll. Now we have a choice. We can either see what our opponent's working with the grief, take that one card, or we can hold up this Force of Despair as a thing. Because we can't do both. I think I'm going to just pass here and hold up the Force of Despair. Right, they can create a little friend. They've got land here. Because if they had Natural Order in hand, they probably would have cast it last turn. So Force of Despair plays around that slightly better from off the top of the library. Green and black. What are we looking at here? Alright. They're sacrificing probably this insect token. There it goes. So if we force the Vigor, we can kill this one thing that they've played off of this Fiend Eyes, and it's going to be a Dork or a Reclaimer. Probably a Reclaimer to go and get the... You don't want to trade 2 cards to kill a Reclaimer. That is a question, isn't it? It allows us to clear the grief if we do. Sure. We're pitching 2 cards to kill a Reclaimer, but it's not ideal. Means if they want to protect their Grist, they have to lose all of their creatures. Wow, we can kind of have it off here. I don't believe they're going to block with everything here. Right, so now we can set this up. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6 damage will be taken next turn. So we might have to kill a Dork. But it doesn't change the damage we're taking if we kill a Dork, because there'll be another creature in the graveyard. Surprised that wasn't a Dryad Arbor that our opponent got there. Oh, no, they've got something. Endurance. So this is 6, 7 damage. It's not great for us, but not sure our Molten Fire is going to be good enough for this game. That Seal of Fire was a Lightning Bolt. We'd be in a much better spot as well. But you can only run 4 Lightning Bolts. Bit of Chain Lightning, maybe. Oh, they had the Natural Order as well. Yeah, we are not winning this one. Alright, GG's opponent. Yeah, multi 5. We didn't quite have enough removal to clear their guys. But the second game, you could see how the average game of this, where we just play a guy and remove their things, is going to be pretty effective. So I think this is a pretty good matchup for the deck. But there are certain things that can undo us, like where they top deck the Endurance. Obviously, they're playing Endurances because they're good cards. That's something they can draw. And that kind of completely undid us there. Alright, let's go to round 2. We are on the play for round 2, and our hand is just lands. Let's send this one back. Our hand is no lands. I guess we have to mulligan. This is fine. What do we want here? We're probably playing... Like, we could try like a Thoughtseize Reanimate cheese here. I don't think we can keep both of these. It's a case of... What do we want here? I think I'd rather have a Thoughtseize than a Seal of Fire. Alright. I think we're just getting a swamp this time around. We can't afford to get Wastelanded here. Now, if our opponent's got something juicy here, we can just reanimate it and be off. A Murktide Regent is pretty good, but not for us to reanimate. A lot of these cards are pretty annoying. If we take the Brainstorm, I think is the best out here. That does make things difficult for us moving forward, though. Like, if we take the Daze, then it will have to be a 2-for-1 if they want to answer our Dauthi, and that kind of helps, and then we can reanimate it. So I think we take the Daze here. We play this out on our opponent's turn. If they want to Force of Will our Dauthi Voidwalker, they will have to pitch a second card, and then we can just reanimate our Dauthi Voidwalker when the time comes. Troll of Khazad-dum is pretty good. I think we start off with this, though. So we could have cycled the Troll first to get a land, but the problem with doing that is that we expose ourselves to Wasteland. Because we're probably going to want a red source off of this at some point. And we already have a play lined up for next turn. Oh, they found a Daze. Very rude. Okay. That's awkward. There's a Polluted Delta from our opponent. We know they've got an island in hand as well. And they got this Force of Will that we need to get through. We could do the whole grief, reanimate grief thing. think that's probably our best bet here. Just really take apart their hand and hope that this can do enough work to win the game. You're going to see another Brainstorm to hide some goodies. So this looks like Bug Beans. Okay, it's Bug Beans. Let's try and reanimate it. We're going to get Force of Will out here. Yep. Okay, so that's the Murktide gone at least. Yikes. So we've got some draws. Have they got a Murktide here? Another one. Alright, this is our face encountering the dirt right here. We do not have long to try and play this game. Wasteland. I don't even want to show my opponent a Wasteland here. I'm just going to pass. Our opponent's got a Wasteland, sure. Yeah, it does look like the Bug Beans. The basic land is somewhat of a giveaway. We've got Bloodstained Mire. We'll play this out. We won't necessarily crack it. We probably die. Okay, they got a Bowmasters. Yeah, that's us dead. Alright, so we multiply yet again with this deck. So that's a recurring problem that we're going to have to think about, perhaps. Okay, so I like Pyroblasts to kill Murktide Regent. That seems like something I want to do. Other than that, what are we interested in? Like Molten Collapse is pretty reasonable. I don't really like our Snuff Out. It kills Murktide, but doesn't kill things. So boarding out a Snuff Out, but boarding in 3 out for Murktide. That seems fine. I'm not really convinced that we need Seals of Fire here. Or are we going to trim Animate Dead, maybe? The Molten Collapse isn't great, actually. Keep Animate Deading because it's kind of like a threat. That's probably fine. Like, we could have another Thoughtseize. It's like pick apart our opponent's hand a little bit. But, oh, God. Oh, the mana base in this deck. Like, we are keeping this because we can cycle the Troll. But, it's awkward. Alright, let's go and get ourselves... I think it's got to be Swamp here. So our plan here is to reanimate our Troll and then Red Elemental Blast their counterspell and then have a good time. Oh, they just have the Surgical. And we have a Troll in hand, so I guess we have to Swamp Cycle this now. Otherwise, we're just going to lose that card anyway. And I'd rather have a Badlands than a Lotus Petal. Yikes, we're getting absolutely smashed up here. So the thing with like the scam package these days is everybody is ready for it. It's not like a new or exciting thing. Like, it's a powerful thing you can do, but people do know how to play with it, against it, sorry. It's a bit like when Urza Saga came to Legacy and it was absolutely slaughtering everyone to begin with. And then people got used to how to play against it and were ready for it. And then it stopped being such a... You can just win the game off of an Urza Saga. That's normally not good enough anymore. Whereas when it first came out, you kind of could just ride that to victory. The format has changed quite a lot. And I think the scam package is a bit like that. Like, you can just steal games with it and do some really good stuff. And it is still a powerful thing to do. But people are slightly more ready for it before. So you can't just say, oh, I've got this and it's going to be fine. But it can... You know, it's still a good thing to do. So, our opponent played a Tropical Island. Our Bowmasters is very good here. Would I like to get this Bowmasters down, or would I like to get a Dauthi Voidwalker down? I think I'd like to get the Voidwalker down here. Can do quite a lot of work for us. Alright, it was a Hymn to Turak rather than Dauthi Voidwalker in the end. That's fine. Now, what are we up to? There's a Wasteland, that's bad news for us. Okay. Come on, deck. Very funny. Okay. We are probably going to lose this game due to our mana base. And it would not be the first time in this league, and we're only into round 2. So, a little bit upsetting. Bloodstained Mire, sure. So we've got some spells we can play now. But our opponent is a Life from Loan deck. If they get that Wasteland wearing again, then we're in trouble. Right, there's a Bowmasters. Will ping us. We'll crack this now for the purposes of Stifle. We'll Bowmasters our opponent's Bowmasters when the time comes. Right, we'll take the 2 here and see if they cast like a Beanstalk second main or something like that. And then we can snipe down this Bowmasters. Address down, you say? That's a bit of a punish for us there. See if it stops our opponent attacking. So we could Bowmasters now, but I don't think... I'm not expecting another dress down here. This is the beans. A Shoulder's Edict. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Let's slip this Bowmasters in and see if this does any work for us. The Daze is good here. Yep, there it is. It's calling it like it is. No, we cannot pay. Cannot do an awful lot of anything here. In comes their little friends. And I feel so far behind right now. I can play this out. We can Lightning Bolt or Reanimate Blast. We at least have the Murktide region answered. Sure, let's see if they flash in another guy. No, it's just 2 damage. That's fine. Let's try and get rid of the Bowmasters at end step. I think they'll just let this go. A Brainstorm. This isn't our Pyroblast target. That needs to be for a Murktide region because we basically can't beat the Murktide. A Reanimate with Red Elemental Blast backup. That is interesting. Alright, let's reanimate our Orcish Bowmasters. We want ours because they might have Brazen Borrow and we don't want them to bounce their own guy back into their hand. A Veil of Summer. Okay. I'm going to force this as well. So their creature has protection from black, so we have to ping ourselves if we want a token. Alright, so this isn't great news for us. The opponent's got 4 cards over there as well. A Murderous Cut. We cannot interact with that, so goodbye. We can't really block with our... Oh, they're going to ponder here. Again, I think our Red Blast has to be for a Murktide, otherwise we just lose in 1 turn cycle. Whereas at least we've got like several turns to try and draw out of it from where we are now. They shuffle that Ponder. Got another Ponder, that's fine. So now we actually have a chance to trade off here. Whilst they can't make any new armies. Put counters on it. Alright, deck. It's got to be good. Okay. We'll cast this with our Lotus Petal. This gives us the counter on it end step. So it can't be Orcish Bowmaster down. So that's something. Can be Fatal Pushed, which I've probably spoken into existence, as is the usual. Right, here comes the Murktide that we've been saving this Red Blast for. So are we destroying this? Or are we going to see if we can... I think we're going to see if we can draw a Thoughtseize. We still have Thoughtseize in our deck. Alright, we did not. Press out. Destroy this blue permanent. Or at least attempt to. Right, we'll attack with our little friend. Alright, we're starting to get somewhere. Crack this, go and get ourselves another Badlands. So end step, this will grow by 1. Alright, we're making inroads into this game. Our opponent can play another Murktide this turn. It'll be a 6/6, which will beat us. Oh, they didn't have anything. That's unexpected. Right, let's play out this Dauthi Voidwalker. That way, if they do anything to our Stalactite Stalker, it'll go under the Voidwalker. Blue and blue, a Daze. I would like to pay for this Daze, please. They got another one. That's what this says to me. Alright, we cannot pay for this one, but this will grow our Stalactite Stalker. Because a permanent card has entered our graveyard this turn. So we will have a 4/4. Up the Beanstalk, sure. That's obviously a very powerful card, but it's not impacting the board directly right now. So maybe we can squeak over the finish line with our little friend. The little goblin that could. A Grief. It's not really going to cut it right now. Right, can we get 4 damage in? Right, opponent's at 7. That's 1 hit and a lightning bolt away from death. If we find a land, we can try this Grief out for size. Okay, Pyroblast is actively good for us. Can we get over the finish line? Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, so I need a second Bowmasters here. Interesting. They're going for some sort of racing shenanigans. They pinged us in the face instead. We had a second Bowmaster. They could have done this last turn. A Seal of Fire. I would very much like to play a Seal of Fire right now. Address down. We're going to counter that spell. Because we would very much like to have Menace. Spell Pierce. Yikes. We still have this game though. Our opponent has no... Well, they get a draw off of the dress down. And this is a mystery draw. If our Seal of Fire comes down, we kill this, we bash for 4. Alright. Very surprised we managed to win that one. felt like we were under the gun the whole time, but our opponent just didn't get their engine online. And when they did get online, they didn't get any sort of fuel for it. So, alright. Would I like some Thoughtseizes here? Or do I just want to jam in as we are with lots of threats and things? I think the Seal of Fire looks better than the Molten Collapse now. Molten Collapse does kill... It does kill Mozart Regent. No, maybe we do have to keep that in. Right, we'll just go in again. Not really a fan of all these Lotus Petals I keep finding, but... We can do a turn 1 Dauthi Voidwalker or a turn 2 Grief. We can do a turn 1 Dauthi Voidwalker with Red Elemental Blast backup. Alright, Island Ponder, the classic start. Bowmasters also pretty good here. Alright, let's fetch. Well, we don't have to worry about a Stifle. Do want Bowmasters, and I think we're just going to play the Voidwalker. The earlier the Voidwalker gets online, the better as a general rule. Alright, we're in. I don't think we're griefing here. I think we need to squeeze a little bit more out of our cards. And Bowmaster is too good to pitch. So, as long as Voidwalker's in play, we don't have to worry about Murktide. So I'm a fan of that. Alright, are we playing the Wasteland or are we playing the I think we play the Bloodstained Mire here. They're cracking their Polluted Delta. What are they going for here? An Underground Sea, that's something we can Wasteland soon. It's going to be a Shoulder's Edict. Each player sacrifices a non-token creature. What's more important to me, having a Dauthi Voidwalker in play or having a Orcish Bowmasters in play? I think it's the Bowmasters is more important. Do we just try and fluke the Bowmasters? I don't think we put the Bowmasters into play now. Okay, a Wasteland. I'm interested in hurting our opponent's mana base. They do run Life of Loam. If we can get him underneath them, that's going to be good. Oh, they're cracking this Brainstorm, are they? I've got a surprise for you, opponent. We've got a Bowmasters. We're going to see a Bowmasters from our opponent here. I believe we are. Red Elemental Blast does not really interact with this one, unfortunately. A sad exchange there. Alright, it's our opponent's turn. A Ponder. Again, we don't want to use our Red Elemental Blast unless it's forcing through something really good or blowing up a Murktide Regent. So the things it should be hitting is either Force of Will or Murktide Regent. Right, Wasteland. That's actively good. But we have a Wasteland. A Ponder. Sure. Being able to draw additional cards feels like a good place to be. And like fixing up your library. Is this our spot to block this? No, I think we're the aggro for now. So we can play as Dauthi Voidwalker. Playing around a Daze. And if it resolves, we then get to Wasteland our opponent. This way, if they decide to block with their Orcish Bowmasters, it goes underneath our friend. Right, let's just send them back to the Stone Age. No lands for you. I imagine they have more mana sources available. They've just been pondering and stuff. Yep, there we go. Sure. So no black mana. A Beanstalk. That's fine. It's obviously very good, but, you know, we are ahead on board, and that is something. This game is kind of even, depending on what's in our opponent's hand. Oh, that's an excellent draw. That's the sort of draw we need here. Just keep our opponent unable to really play the game. We have the superior clock. Maybe we can just leverage that to a victory here. And Brainstorm, sure. There's only lands in our opponent's void for our Dauthi Voidwalker right now. Just the Orc Bowmaster. Okay. If a permanent card was put into your graveyard from anywhere. This token dying will not trigger for our Stalactite Stalker. So I think we're just attacking with the Dauthi Voidwalker. So I think it's better to play the Stalker than it is to pitch cast the Grief here. A Daze. Sure, we're not paying for that one, obviously. But we've got our opponent down to 2-turn clock. And they've just set themselves back a land again. Trying to dodge Fatal Push is probably the main way they get out of this. A Lightning Bolt, that is going to be good if we ever find red mana. I guess we can steal our opponent's Scalding Tarn if we need to. But I think we're just on trying to get there with this guy. Oh no. Not a spell. It's the one thing we didn't want them to have. Could we drown on the lock? pretty good. Blue, blue. Dress down. Okay. So they're going to trade both of their guys for my Dauthi Voidwalker here. So that leaves us red source on top, and we might be able to win the game. Okay. We do need to find some business here. Alright. Here's our lowly 1-1 going to get there. If we put our opponent to 3, that's amazing for us. Alright, here comes a Bowmasters. Yep, I thought that might happen. But if we find a red source and a black card, then we can check their hand to see if our bolts will resolve. And if they crack that fetch land, we only need 1 bolt to resolve. And we've got 7 turns of getting attacked. So I think this is acceptable. Our opponent hasn't shown us any Uros. These Bug Beans deck normally don't play it, so... that is a black card, but we don't have the red mana, so we're going to wait and then see if we can fire this grief off when time comes. Alternatively, we can just try and animate dead something like a Bowmasters and put our opponent 2-3, and that makes quite a big difference. We've got options. A Thoughtseize. That's kind of an awkward one to cast, if I'm being honest. Alright, 2 life is a big deal. Alright, I think we're going to grief pitching the Thoughtseize right now. We're in pair out of days here. Surgical Extraction on Badlands. Oh, that's pretty good. So we have 2 Lotus Petals left in our deck. As our only red sources. Yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck. We're going to have a pretty bad time here. So we basically get to cast 2 more red spells total this game. So we're going to need some black spells, I guess. We've got 1 swamp left in the deck. Obviously we've got all the fetch lands that can find it as well. I think our opponent's got another surgical. That's my guess here. Yeah, there it is. So there's a Brainstorm, there's a Bowmasters. I think we take the... There's no lightning bolts in the graveyard. I think we take the Force of Will here. This means that we can just top deck the red source and put our opponent to almost dead. Or at least punish them for using the fetch land at some point. Alright, yes. So now Lotus Petal is GG's. So we're going to see a Bowmasters here to increase their clock. No, they didn't. Oh no, sorry, they fetched a green source, didn't they? They couldn't do the Bowmasters. There's the Brainstorm. So they have a Surgical Extraction, so our Animate Dead is unlikely to be good. Alright, here's the Murktide Regent. So that beats us next turn. So, alright, this is the game, really. Do we draw one of our 2 Lotus Petals? We did. Our opponent did not surgically extract the Lotus Petals. Ah, they drew a Force of Will, though. Ah, that's a sad one. Yeah, our mana base did not help us out very much in this match, to be honest. It felt like we were close quite often, but running Lotus Petals instead of like fetch lands is a real cost. Like having a one-off hit of mana just to make your Stalactite Stalkers better, but also maybe power out something, you know, like a turn 1 Troll or Grief or whatever. Or a Dauthi Voidwalker is not really working for us, especially in these like longer, grindier matchups where we actually need the repeatable resources. Like, if the first Lotus Petal we had was just a land, we easily win this game. It's not even close. Alright, let's go to round 3. Alright, this hand seems reasonable. We can keep this. I think we can grief this turn, pitching Dauthi Voidwalker. What do we have here? Thoughtseize, Currency Converter, and a bunch of Bowboys. I guess the Thoughtseize is the thing I don't really want to have to play against, so get rid of that. The Baron Moor means our opponent's probably like some sort of Life from the Loam strategy, like a sort of like slow depths. And the Currency Converter probably means they're running Urza's Saga. Alright, I think we're just going to go into Badlands town here. Let's cycle this. Get out of the Badlands. We could try and take our opponent off of green mana though, and possibly take him off of his second mana source. The Baron Moor is pretty tasty with the Currency Converter as well. Alright, I'm going for the griefy play here. Also, Molten Collapse can just pick up this Currency Converter and one of their creatures at the same time when we use a fetch land. Right, there's the Baron Moor tapped. That's not what our opponent really wanted. Could be some sort of Pox variant. Let's Animate Dead on the Troll. Can I have a 5/5, please? I have 2 mystery cards in hand. Alright, we have a 5/5. We have the currency converter and the first creature they play answered. Just keep swinging. Oh, that Wasteland. Winning the day for us, perhaps. I'm trying to work out what's more important here. I think is it more important to grow our Stalactite Stalker or to have this Molten Collapse? I guess it's probably more important to have our Stalactite Stalker growing when we know they've got all these bow boys. Right, our opponent not really getting there, unfortunately, for them. We're going to save the bow boys to kill their bow boys. Right, so we have our Molten Collapse ready to go. Alright, feels like we've got a cheese win coming in here, courtesy of Wasteland. Alright, the cheese, it came in. So, our opponent is probably doing like Lomi type stuff, so there is an option for Faerie Macabres here. I do not like Thoughtseize in this matchup, this sort of matchup. Null Rod has some text that we can consider. Currently we've got 2 Faerie Macabres coming in. We've seen Bowmasters. Do we want... I don't think we want this Snuff Out either. So we'll take this 3 Macabres is probably enough. We could have Null Rod, but our opponent's probably just got like Currency Converter, which we can answer with Molten Collapse anyway, instead of bringing these really narrow cards that also hurt our mana base in a big way. So I think we're just going to roll like this. Alright, we can do our thing. If we don't have to worry about the graveyard, we can just put a Troll into play. That seems like a reasonable A-game. An Urza's Saga. That's a good card. A Mox Diamond. That's something we can blow up with Molten Collapse. A Thoughtseize. This will be an interesting take from our opponent, I think. We've got some redundancy. They're not going to take the Troll. They might take the Molten Collapse. Yeah, they take the Molten Collapse because we can just shut them off of mana and just deny them again. Okay, so our plan here is cycle Troll. Get Badlands. Play out Lotus Petal. Reanimate Troll. The classic. Alright, our opponent did not have a target piece of graveyard hate, but their deck could have things like Maze of Ith or just removal spells in general to deal with our guy. If they don't have the exile removal, though, we do get to just keep bringing it back again and again, because that's all our hand really does here. This doesn't necessarily beat an Urza's Saga because of Shadow Spear. Stalactite Stalker. Right, let's attack. Shouldred's Edict. Okay. So our opponent is not making a creature there. Interesting. Alright, let's get a Troll back. This time it's smaller. Because our opponent can go and get Graveyard Hate, we want to do this now rather than play the Stalactite Stalker. Because our Animate Deads are probably not going to be very useful in the very near future. So we want to get the most out of everything while we can. Alright. What do you have in your Saga package? Soulguide Lantern. Okay. We just want more mana. And they're casting a Currency Converter. They have 1 card in hand. That's not a lot of cards. Smallpox. Alrighty. We will discard. This is kind of an interesting one. I think we discard Stalker here. And we'll lose a Badlands. We want to keep our basic. So we can just Animate Dead onto our Troll again. Maybe we'll connect with this Troll one day. It's the 3rd time we've had this Troll in play now. So our opponent does get to Currency Convert anything bad. So their draws should slowly improve over time. Alright, let's play a Channeler. Let's play a Stalker. Let's go attacks. So we're pretty insulated from an Edict now. If they have something that kills our guy in combat, then the Stalker will grow. Right, so what they're pitching to the Currency Converter. A Ghost Quarter. So this is going to be a treasure, so they might be able to cast a 3-drop. Something like a Liliana, which will just eat our Stalactite Stalker. And then we'll kill the Liliana and have a 2-turn clock. So that won't be good enough. Alright, they want the treasure. Liliana. There we go. We'll get rid of our smallest creature. Right, we'll attack. This is Liliana. This is our opponent. There is Dragon's Channeler. You have to answer at least the Troll this turn. Alright, we got there. So, a little bit of mana denial in game 1, and then game 2 we just played a load of stuff. And that's kind of what Pox struggles against, really. If you can just get on the board when they're, you know, because they're trying to like take away a bunch of our resources. We're pretty low to the ground and can just do some pretty powerful things. So we're on the board. No 0-5 for us today. So that's something that makes me happy at least. Let's go to round 4. Trolls. Maybe double Wasteland gets us somewhere. We've got some removal, but this hand doesn't really... Although we do have 6 reanimation as well as a draw into and a bunch of threats. I think we can keep this, but I'm not happy about it. Right, we'll lead out on a Polluted Delta. We can go and fetch ourselves another land off of this troll. So we've at least got our colours sorted. No activation of anything from our opponent there. Alright, are we going to get stifled? They play around us stifling them. That's interesting. Oh, we didn't cycle the troll like we were planning to. Whoops. I'll play this out. And I'll play this out. And I'll pass. Otherworldly Gaze. Okay, we know what our opponent is doing now. They are on the blue-black dredge deck. There's an Archamoeba. Alright, we're going to pop our opponent's graveyard out because it's a very key zone in this game. I do have a bridge from below. Let's get Badlands. Alright. I'll play out this Seal of Fire now. I don't think it's going to be very helpful if I'm being perfectly honest. This is a game that we probably have to win from the sideboard. But that's kind of what dredge is like a lot of the time. Although this build of dredge is quite slow. It's not as explosive at all, so it's kind of like gives you a chance to play a normal game into it. Right, they're going to bring back their Icarid now. They are. They have 1 bridge from below in the graveyard. Right, attacking with just the Archamoeba. There's an Underground Sea from our opponent. A Cabal Therapy. Sure. Orcish Bowmasters. We do not have an Orcish Bowmasters. Let's do this. Are we supposed to turn this into a zombie but stop them from getting more bridges next time around? I think that is the correct play here. So they could name Troll here. And that's fine by me. We're not a million miles away from casting it, to be honest. Right, so they've got 2 2/2s. What are we going to find here? An Animate Dead. That's a pretty good one. We'll play out another Wasteland. Let's Animate Dead. Our Troll. I got Force of Will for this. I think it probably merits one. Oh no. We're just in here. Alrighty. Okay, so we've got another Archamoeba there. But no other bridge. There's the Cephalid Colosseum. It's going to fire this off immediately. Okay. So we need to stop one of these before they get multiple bridges off of it. I think it's the Archamoeba that goes here. Alright, this is probably going to end poorly for us. They're going to have milled over the majority of their library by the end of this. Yeah, only 20 cards left. So they could put Hogak into play. I don't think we beat the Hogak. We got Molten Collapse. That's something. I can just take out Hogak for a turn. Found 2 more bridges as well. So just going to get... I don't think we win this one from this point. I don't think it's worth our time to keep playing it. You've got to value your own time, right? Okay, I would like some Faerie Macabres, please. That seems quite useful. Force of Despair actually seems pretty good here when they make a load of bridges. That's something we could use. These Red Blasts are pretty good. Snuff Out is rubbish. Thoughtseizes are pretty rubbish. I don't even think I want these Griefs. I don't really want the Griefs. Animate Dead. The Dauthi Voidwalker obviously excellent. Orcish Bowmasters excellent. Maybe we don't need these Seal of Fires. And we'll take out 1 Molten Collapse. The Lightning Bolt is reach, but the Molten Collapse kills Hogak, which is like the one thing we're worried about. We'll keep in the collapses like this. So Force of Despair is kind of a sweeper. Like if they make a bunch of zombies, we might be able to clean them all up. Or it might do absolutely nothing. We will keep this. We basically Force of Will check them for the game on turn 1. So it's not bad, is it? Force of Will? No. Okay. So they can't win the game whilst Dauthi Voidwalker is in play. Now, they probably have some ways of dealing with this. Like bounce spells. Possibly things like Dismember. But this is a real big boon for us here. Right, we will try and jump them with this Dauthi Voidwalker. If they kill this, we can then Dragon's Rage Channel and reanimate. We're going to hold up this Bowmasters. Okay, just another odd gate. So Bowmasters can ping itself and give us and remove our opponent's bridges if that's the thing we want, but they're just going to scoop it up. Sure. So if they were to get rid of this, we could then remove bridges with the Bowmasters, but as you can see, Dauthi Voidwalker is the boss. Let's just go in again. Powerful hate cards are powerful. We can keep this, I think. It's not great, but it's something. Like if we find another land, it's good. If they have some crazy turn, we can mess with them. A reanimate. That's an interesting one. We're just going to wasteland them straight up and make their life more difficult. They're probably going to otherworldly gaze in response. That's fine. Okay, we're going to get rid of their Stinkweed Imp and their bridge from below here. Careful study. That's a pretty good one. Alright, I got 2 more dredges in the graveyard. Understood. Are we reanimating one of their things? We could reanimate their Stinkweed Imp. What does that actually do for us is the question. I'm not convinced we do that. I think we just pass. We hope they put a load of stuff into play. And then we just get to shred them all with our Force of Despair. Right. Again, we just need the graveyard pops out. They found an Archimeber. They have 1 bridge from below. I don't believe they're going to successfully name the Force of Despair. They might hit Dauthi Voidwalker here. They did hit the Dauthi Voidwalker. But we have 2 reanimates, which they're now going to use. They're going to... Oh, wow, they're not. They're just going to let us reanimate our Dauthi Voidwalker. That's wild. That means they've probably got something here. Daze. Force of Will. A Brainstorm. Sure. It's going to put a lot of cards on our opponent's graveyard. But Dauthi Voidwalker does an interesting thing. If it gets to stay in play here. Oh, they had the Daze as well. Yikes. We can't Force of Despair now because it's only on our opponent's turn we get to cast it for free. But I was going to say Dauthi Voidwalker does an interesting thing because stuff doesn't die, it goes to exile instead, so they wouldn't be able to ever get any bridge triggers. Right, so this guy's going to come in. How many bridges we got here? 1 bridge. 2 bridge. 2 bridges. Okay, we're probably going to pitch a big chunk of our hand soon. Just to stop all this nonsense from coming on. So, our Force of Despair will only kill the Icarid if we pitch it now. Which isn't very good. Let's get rid of those 2 bridge tokens. They've got a pretty good idea what's in their hand. They can name the Reanimate here. Like, they can probably win without hitting our Reanimate even if they want to, really. Okay. Yikes. How are we getting out of this one? Quite the pickle we found ourselves in. Alright, so we've got the sum total of nothing going on. That's not good. Maybe we shouldn't have kept this hand. But we had Dauthi Voidwalker and Faerie Macabre in. I don't think you can throw away a card with 2 hate pieces. And we even had a Wasteland to try and maybe strand them on nothing after just taking their immediate hits in the graveyard. So this is 6. So we're dead next turn. 3 bridges. We can wipe all these creatures. But it doesn't really matter here. We got nothing. Alright, we got a little bit smashed up there. I think our hand was fine. I think this matchup was relatively well. But our opponent had not only the 1 enabler, but they had the 2nd enabler with 2 more dredges in. So we didn't have enough time to get our 2nd piece of disruption down. So, yep, a bit unfortunate. Let's go to the final round. I think we're looking for a 2-3 now. Not a great day. Alright, we've got kind of like a fairish hand here. It kind of feels a little bit better. We can just do classic Dragon's Rage Channeler goodness. Maybe we can reanimate something cool if there's something nice on top of our library. We can probably get Delirium on turn 1. We've got land, artifact, sorcery, and top of our library. Or enchantment on top of our library. A defense grid. Okay. So our opponent is a combo deck. Understood. Alright, this is a play all the Null Rods gamble. It took a while to load that one because it's the weird art, but so this is the epic gamble, I believe. Right, we're about to draw a whole new grip. And considering how much we've been mulliganing these games, I don't really want a fresh 7. Alright. Right, we are F6'd here, I think. Our hand is terrible, so. Alright, Storm is already going to be lethal if they can string together enough mana and... Okay, if they've got enough mana, they just need the tutor, like the Burning Wish here. A galvanic relay. Okay. White Flame, Bergie, Gamble, Grim Monolith, White Flame, Shadow Skull, Smashing, Wish, Burning Wish, Chrome Mox. That's got to be good enough to beat me next turn. We don't get to disrupt our opponent. I think we just scoot this one up. Our opponent should be able to win from that, right? So, that's 3 mana. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And they got Storm 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's lethal. We're not beating that. Yikes. Alright. 3 times Null Rod, please. We're going to keep our Lotus Petals because we need to get it in on turn 1. Pyroblast for Echo of Eons is a real thing. The Thoughtseize is a good thing. We do not require... Well, Molten Collapse is interesting, actually, because it can hit lines like Diamond if they play it out. We don't need burn spells here. Orcish Bowmasters, pretty good, though. Like, Grief, Reanimate, Grief is good. We don't really need Snuff Out. So the one thing we're a little bit cold to boarding like this is Empty the Warrens, but I'm not going to board in Force of Despair to try and beat Empty the Warrens. That feels like a disaster. All right. We've got a plan. We have turn 1 Grief, turn 2 Null Rod. Holding up Badlands. All right, this seems acceptable to me. Right, have Badlands. Grief. Pitching the Troll. Let's see what we're working with over here. Our opponent's got a full grip here, so it could be pretty explosive. The One Ring, that's some nonsense right there. So turn 1, if we take their Chrome Mox, they don't have any... if we take the Chrome Mox, they won't have any starting red mana. That's pretty interesting. We are going to shut off the Chrome Mox next turn. I think we take the Bergie. That's kind of the thing that I'm more scared of here. Weirdly. Right, we're going to take the Bergie. So they can put the One Ring on the stack and draw a card. Then we can Null Rod and then hopefully never have to worry about it and it will slowly kill them. That is the plan that I have gone for. Here is the Chrome Mox. It's probably going to imprint Simian Spirit Guide. That'll be my guess unless they do something else that is worse. Yeah, so if we took the Mox, they get 1 round of red mana from the Simian Spirit Guide. Right. So this is just going to be the One Ring, I believe. Yeah, you get 1 card. What is your 1 card? How'd you like a Null Rod? Hopefully not a lot. So our opponent's lifesteal is going to be slowly ticking down, and we get to Wasteland our opponent and put a Grief into play next turn. That should be enough to win this game, I believe. Right, there's a defense grid we knew about. We don't get to put Grief in and Wasteland our opponent. Do we want... I think we just want the threat, so we can... Would I rather have a Bergie than a Grief? No, we want the Grief. Wish, Echoing Truth, Galvanic Relay. Okay, we're going to take the Echoing Truth here. And the plan is to Thoughtseize the Wish and Wasteland them next turn. Because Wish doesn't put it in their hands. They need the mana to use the Wish as well. I think our opponent will probably scoop on this turn cycle. We will take the Wish. We'll Wasteland our opponent. We will attack. Nope, no scoop yet. So we're not going to Molten Collapse this Chrome Mox. We're just going to hold open 2 Red Blasts in case they draw an Echoing Truth that we want to deal with. Although we can't really deal with it on their turn because of the defense grid, actually. So maybe we're just supposed to Molten Collapse this. But maybe they somehow play a Bergie. And we just keep attacking. We don't really need to do anything else from this point. We can almost pay around a defense grid as well. Their defense grid makes their bounce spells a lot worse in a way because they can't do it end of turn and then untap and have all their mana. So they have to do it on their turn because of their own defense grid. So there are definitely lines that can get them where they need to be. Like they can draw like the Volcanic Island in their deck. And sort of be off to the races a little bit. Right, so this puts them to 7. They go to 6 on their next turn. So they have 1 more draw step here. Because this shuts down echo lines. Not that they can really do echo lines. But they're going to go to 6. And then we take them to 1. And then their upkeep, they die to the One Ring. So this One Ring has done them... It's going to do them 7 damage this game, I believe. Nice little win condition we had there. Alright. Pretty happy with that. Do I want to change anything? I don't believe I do. I think we're just going to send it and have a good time. I don't believe a Thoughtseize is good enough here, so we are going to mulligan. I don't believe this opening hand is good enough to win the game. It is too slow. We need to interact with our opponent on the first turn, basically. So now I'm actually happy we have the Lotus Petals in our hand. Like maybe the single Thoughtseize hand would have been alright, but I think we can aim higher. Alright, this is rubbish. Oh no. Alright. Okay, we have to keep this. So we're keeping Null Rod, and if we keep 2 lands Null Rod, that's probably not good enough. Like, we're not keeping this or this. We can keep land, grief, troll. But I think we're better off keeping these cards and trying to spike a Lotus Petal. Like, if our opponent does like a Galvanic Relay on turn 2 or something, so they get like turn 1 Defense Grid, turn 2 Galvanic Relay or something, then the Null Rod will actually work here. And that's better than 1 Thoughtseize. Alright, Defense Grid. Lines are diamond. Alright, we're going to be getting a whole new 7 anyway, which is obviously one of the possibilities here. All times. Okay. Echo of Eons. Alright, our hand has more cards in it, but they don't feel much better. So that's not good. We might just be dead this turn, or there might be a big relay. Right, a Mox. Like, the Storm's already halfway to where it needs to be. So it's just a case of do they have enough resources to keep going. Our opponent's deck is a non-deterministic one when it starts going off because it just kind of draws 7s. Like, it's likely to go off. But it's not fully deterministic, not like Beseech the Mirror decks. Alright, so they've got a creature in play. Okay. That could have been worse for us. Right, this is actually alright, isn't it? We can go and get ourselves a Badlands. Play this. Deploy this to shut off Echo of Eons. So our opponent can't do the draw 7s anymore. And then next turn we can Wasteland them and play a Dragon's Rage Channeler. And we're starting to cook with gas there. And then maybe we can do some cycling of our Troll and bringing it back so we've got a big heavy hitter. Now the Bergy beatdown plan is pretty good still. Right, we're going to Grief, pitching Troll of Khazad-dum. Let's see what our opponent's working with. Burning Wish, that can go away. And then I'll get this Grief back. We'll take their Chromox. Go to attacks here. So we put our opponent to 15 here. And then they 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15. So they've got a 6-turn clock. And we have a 3-turn clock. So we are significantly ahead of where we want to be in terms of the race. So they've got a City of Traitors as the other card in their hand, so that's not going to do anything. Bash away. We're going to attack. Deploy this. Ping our opponent for 1 here. Alright, how does this game slip away from us? That is the next question. I'm not sure it does. I could do like the backside of a Bergy, and then the next turn just have a really good turn. That's quite an effective way of doing things. Right, big mana in the pool this turn. So they could be doing like Wish and then casting something out of their board. We just don't know. Right, so they've got the Burning Wish. So they've got a chance of doing something here. They're going for a Hail Mary of Reforge the Soul, which is bold when we have a Orcish Bowmasters in play. Right, I think we have to kill Bergy, ping our opponent for the rest of the damage. So our opponent's got 2 colours and a red mana plus a full grip. If we get another turn, the game is over. So this is our opponent's turn to do what they wish. They can't draw any more cards this turn. Storm is only 2. But we're only on 13. Mox. So the other option we had was putting them to 2, but leaving them with a Bergy. So they couldn't activate their Ancient Tomb, but I think they get more mana. Okay, Harnfell, this is one of the things they need. This doesn't draw cards, it exiles the top cards of the library. Alright. Let's pop out their exile zone and see what they've got here. Is that a Rite of Flame? Oh no. This is the pile of things they get to cast. Alright. That does not do it. They've still got some more cards though. Pitching Galvanic Relay. That doesn't do it. We can play the Lotus Petal out though. Alright, Horn of Harnfell. Defense Grid and Grim Monolith. Not great. They got one card left in hand. A Pitch in the Air Echoing Truth. It did not find anything that wins them the game. We have won this one. They can't even put an Echo Beyond on the stack if they wanted to here. Alright, we got the match and we came away with a 2-3. So not an incredible record by any stretch of the imagination. We definitely had some problems, which I'm going to talk about now. So let's get into my thoughts on this build. So I can imagine if you've watched this league, you know that what I'm going to say is the mana base in this deck did not feel great. Like, this being kind of part of our mana base. So Wastelands are quite often spells because they're quite pip intensive, you know, red, black, black. Like a lot of our spells, black, black, lightning bolt, stuff like that. We're not really using the Wasteland for mana very often. It can sometimes be a mana for Animate Dead or Bowmasters. That's about it. So these cards are spells. So if we move them over here into like a spell slot, we have 12 lands and 4 Lotus Petals. So we basically replaced 4 of the lands in our deck with Lotus Petals. And that to me is very sketchy. Now what it does do is gives you the ability to sometimes play something turn 1, like a Null Rod or a Dauthi Voidwalker, which can transform the way a game is played just immediately. But we lost a round because we had a Lotus Petal instead of a land. And we had some other hands that weren't really keepable because they had Lotus Petals instead of lands. I do not think that this mana base is good. I think it is asking for trouble. And I don't think this is where I want to be. The Dragon's Rage Channeler, Stalker, these feel fine. And the scammy half also feels fine. But we often ended up with like very few resources to draw on because of our Lotus Petals just dipping away or having like pitch spells. So the combination of Grief and Lotus Petal can often leave us with not a lot left, not even lands. So top decking becomes worse just in general. And we don't really have the filtering or anything. So we're playing off the top and some of those cards are just going to be unusable anyway. So there's definitely some issues there for what we're trying to accomplish. But I do like this sort of style of deck. I don't think it's quite there or where I would want it to be. I think the black-red build we played the other day felt a little bit better to me because the black-red build we played the other day was bigger. So we were beating up on all of these sort of decks of creatures in that are quite popular at the moment. Pretty creature-heavy meta. What this deck's trying to do is go underneath of stuff. And I feel there's a lot of decks that can prey upon people trying to do that because, you know, Delver's a popular deck. People are trying to beat Delver all the time. There's also other aggro decks, so people are able to deal with threats. We can't really protect our threats. We're not like Dazing and Force of Will. So they have answers, they're just going to have it. And we don't really have any like sort of big mid-rangey style haymakers that can kind of just pull us back into game. You know, like a Faerie the Mirror Breaker is like, okay, we're going to have a good couple of turns now. Or a Fury can just go, okay, we're going to reset the board, or we're going to play this guy, reset the board, but we have a 3/3 double striker. But what we do have in this deck is this like a slightly deeper scam package. Not by much though, right? I think the build we played the other day was only a little bit slower, only a little bit less than this. I think we had maybe 1 Animate Dead, and I can't remember if we had 3 or 4 trolls, but that's kind of similar amount of scam package, but we didn't have the Lotus Petals, so we were a little bit slower, but we had more lands in our deck and we could actually just play the game sometimes, and that felt quite good. Like we had games where we had 1 land and we couldn't cast spells, and that feels like a fundamental error with this Lotus Petal strategy. It's quite high risk, but I don't think the return is good enough because we can't just like play our stuff out and protect it. Like Blue-Black Scam, they can make a turn 1, well not necessarily a turn 1, they can make a turn 2 Troll of Khazad-dum. And that's pretty good. And then they can back it up with Dazes and Force of Wills, which is very good because you only need to protect this for like 2 or 3 turns and then the game is over. Whereas we don't have the tools to protect something in play. So it feels like every play we have to make has to be significant because we can't protect them in the same way. Which is why when you look at aggro decks that exist in Legacy right now, you've got aggro / tempo, I suppose. So you've got the Rhinos deck, which makes 8 power but then protects with a bunch of counter spells. And it makes that power really early on, which is often enough to win the game. But it's got other backup plans like Minsk and Boo, and has counter spells. I can't believe I'm saying nice things about the Rhinos deck, but I think the Rhinos deck has finally found its place where it's getting a little better now because people are running Wastelands in it as well. I think that is a step in the right direction. even though I hate the deck. I'll probably play it soon anyway with a new Wasteland build. Moving on though, then you also got Delver decks, which, you know, they've got a bunch of 1-drops, but then they've got Daisies, they've got Force of Will to protect their guys. Okay, cool. So we can't protect them with counter spells here, fine. But there are other aggro decks that don't need to protect with counter spells. For example, Goblins. But what Goblins does is it just throws haymakers at you. And like every turn you feel like you're close to death against the Goblin deck. And if you do manage to, you know, kill their guys, their big explosive things isn't like, okay, we're going to pitch like 4 cards and we're going to do this thing. It's like, okay, I'll play this guy that is a 2/2 on its own anyway, but also gives me a bunch of mana. Or I'll play this guy that is a 2/2 with haste, but also draws me like 3 cards. So they just have a lot of staying power as well, so they can just kind of play this game that's quite attrition-y if they need to. And they top deck very well with lots of really explosive plays. So the only thing they're pitching to usually is a Chrome Mox, and that's about it. Maybe a Spirit Guide as well. But then a lot of their stuff has all these triggers that just gets them more value. So it's not a case of stopping 1 or 2. They're not trying to ride 1 or 2 creatures to victory, whereas that's kind of what we're trying to do here. So that's kind of different. Then we look at the initiative decks. So they play a creature. You can answer the creature, but you basically have to answer the creature very quickly or you lose. But even if you do answer the creature, you also have to crack back and take the initiative. Otherwise, you're going to lose the initiative anyway. And, you know, the way that they're playing out loads and loads of mana, so the initiative gets them the next land to go anyway. So whilst they may pitch resources like Spirit Guides or Chrome Moxes, they then get that mana back pretty quickly anyway. And then they've got some big threats that are, you know, they're bigger threats. We're trying to win with like 3 power guys quite often. Sometimes we get a Troll into play, cool. But then a lot of the time we're trying to win with like a Dauthi Voidwalker's got 3 power, a Stalactite Stalker that maybe has 3 power, a Channeler that has 3 power. And our threats aren't like that game ending compared to what the like initiative decks do. And eventually they're probably just going to answer that threat that's beating them, and then they're going to carry on in their merry way playing the game. So that's kind of like where the aggro-y type decks are at the moment. And we're not really like that. We do have this grief package. Sometimes if you just go grief, reanimate, grief, you might be able to ride that grief quite away. But the amount of removal in the format right now, because of all these aggro decks and aggressive creature strategies you need to defeat, means that that's not necessarily good enough. And without the sort of follow-up plays, like a grief pitching and then reanimating on turn 1, on its own isn't enough to win. Like whenever my reanimate opponent does that to me, I'm like, oh, thank you. Like if that's the hand you've kept, I can understand why you've kept it. It sometimes gets there, but their hand will not win the game unless their opponent draws badly and their opponent draws badly and they draw well. They kind of need another wave, and it doesn't feel like this deck's amazing at putting down the other waves. Like there's a few 5-0s with this exact list, so you know it's clearly not completely terrible, but I don't think it's in a great spot in my opinion, and I think we can definitely improve upon this, which is something I'll be messing around with every now and then. I don't know if I'll get another one out this week with the next iteration of this that I want to try out, but I've got one that I've been brewing for a little bit. I think I've now played enough of other people's builds to work out how I want to tweak it for myself and give it a try. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this one. I hope you enjoyed me getting annoyed at not having lands. Kind of my just desserts, because I do enjoy wastelanding other people, so can't complain too much. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. And with that, goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.